Hello and welcome to Positively United for the second time today, Tuesday the 14th of April 2026. And in this video, I'd like to do my 5 insights from United's defeat at home 2-1 against Leeds yesterday. I've already done a match reaction. I did that, I was going to say late last night. It was actually early this morning. I've done the player ratings. If you watched that, you'll know I've given some very, very low ratings to some players. By the way, I just want to come back to one thing. I gave Martinez, as you know, a 3 out of 10 because of his irresponsible actions in getting himself sent off. I can see by going online today that I'm in a total minority on that, apart from irony on ironies. Roy Keane. Roy looks at it exactly the same as I do, by the look of it. Roy has pulled him, has pulled him aside, has been totally unprofessional, being like a school kid, like a juvenile. Totally agree with Roy. Totally agree with Roy on that. Roy Keane's got it absolutely right. Yeah, I stick by my 3 out of 10 for Martinez, despite the block. Getting himself sent off in those circumstances is terrible. And by the way, I've looked and looked and looked at the sending off. Of course, he wouldn't have been sent off in a pre-VAR age because the referee didn't spot it. And yeah, you do have to wonder about the kinds of people who are sat in Stockley Park just looking, waiting for that sort of thing to happen. And yeah, it's not what we want to see in the game. But put all that aside, Martinez is at fault. And do you know what? He knows exactly what he's doing. I'm sorry, I don't buy the thing he was trying to grab hold of Calvert-Lewin's shirt. He wasn't. He grabbed hold of his hair and he pulled it. A ridiculous thing to do. Anyway, there you go. Just defending my 3 out of 10 there. But as I said, in this video, I want to look at what I think are the 5 insights we can draw from the game. The first one is Harry Maguire's contract extension. Logical. No way sentimental or showing that United are cheap. Manchester United massively missed Harry Maguire last night. And the prospect of him having a further extension to his ban that would mean he wouldn't be available against Chelsea hardly bears thinking about. Harry Maguire has his faults. We all know that. And Harry Maguire probably knows that too. But my goodness me, his strengths really do shine. He's a good organiser. He brings stability to our back four. He brings a maturity to our back four. He brings a settled, ordered mindset to our back four. And we absolutely didn't have that yesterday. The reason that the club have offered Maguire a contract extension is because he's a damn good defender. And if there are any lingering doubts about that, I think yesterday proved that in his absence. There were in fact, I think, 2 players who came out of the performance yesterday with their reputations enhanced and they didn't even play. And Maguire was one of them. If you seriously believe the agenda that is being pushed against Maguire at the moment by people who've had an agenda against Maguire for years and resulted in the peak of the anti-Maguire hysteria that hit about, 2 seasons ago, 2.5 seasons ago. When, to the shame, frankly, of the fan base of this club, Maguire's family felt threatened in their own home because of the hysteria that had been whipped up from some quarters against him. If you are still falling for that now, I kind of almost feel sorry for you. He's a damn good defender. He's a damn good character. He brings maturity and a strength of mind to that back four, and we desperately, desperately missed it yesterday. Does anybody else bring it to our back four? De Ligt, I think, does. And let's hope De Ligt's injury is not the career-threatening one that the swirling rumours seem to be suggesting that it is. Because Maguire's not going to be with us forever. He's going to be with us for probably 1 or 2 more seasons. Well, 1 definitely, possibly 2. And De Ligt is certainly a longer-term solution. But in the immediate future, Maguire is something I'm really glad that we have at United. And his contract extension was a really good, positive piece of news. Get off his case and just be thankful he's with us. The second player who enhanced their reputation, I thought, yesterday, even despite the fact they didn't play, was Mainu. So my question there is, so do you get what Mainu does now? Because I know an awful lot of people make out that they just don't get Mainu. They don't understand why people have such a high opinion of Mainu, why he's so highly regarded by some fans. That's because what he does isn't flashy. I've mentioned this in my videos before, but what he does is that he is the calming influence on that midfield. Just like Maguire has recently been the calming influence on the defence, Mainu has been the calming influence in midfield. He's always there to receive the ball. And when he receives it, he doesn't panic. He seems to have a bit more time than anyone else around him. And more often than not, he picks the right ball to play. Whether that ball is a obvious ball or the safe ball or the simple ball, I don't particularly care. As long as he's not giving it away, as long as he's keeping us fluid, as long as the triangles are still working, that's where he shows his strength. And it's a really underrated skill. Yeah, we can all, well, we can't, but we can all wish that all our players played Hollywood passes all the time. But that's not the way football works. And let me give you the example. In the first 15 to 20 minutes of yesterday's game against Leeds, look at Ugarte. He looked panicky. He looked nervous. He constantly gave the ball away. Please don't rewrite the history of yesterday's game because he got better as the game went on. The first 15 to 20 minutes were dreadful from him. He showed all the qualities that, well, he showed all the disbenefits that Mainu doesn't. He's the opposite of Mainu. He panics when he gets the ball. He doesn't know where he wants to knock the ball to next. He doesn't have the triangles in his mind. He doesn't have sometimes the safe and obvious simple pass to make. But Mainu does. So I thought Mainu came out of yesterday's game reputation enhanced. So that's the second insight from the game, I think. The third insight, and I think this is actually more important, the Šeško enigma needs to be addressed and answered. And this is the Šeško enigma. Bring him on as a substitute and he's excellent. He impacts the game. He gets amongst it. He creates chances. He's in the right place at the right time. He scored fantastically important goals off the bench this season. But playing from the beginning of the game, and let's face it, he's a non-entity. It's just not happening for him. Now, the question is this, and I don't have an answer. Is this because when he comes on as a substitute, he's coming into a team that's usually chasing a result? A team that's on the front foot, that's got impetus and momentum, and are looking to make crosses, looking to be positive, looking to force the issue. And he benefits enormously from that. Maybe he's that kind of player. But when he starts, he's being really hampered and let down by what has now become a bit of a trait at United, which is a really slow and sluggish start. Is that the problem? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But the one thing I do know is Carrick needs to answer that question, and he needs to answer it quickly. Because at the moment, he's in, I think, a dilemma when it comes to Šeško. It's not working playing Šeško from the beginning of the game because he's not making an impact. He's not contributing. But to leave him out means that he has to play Mbeumo up front, Cunha up front. And that's not been working recently. I think it works better with Cunha up front, by the way. But I think Mbeumo is wasted in that position. It's much better playing from the wide than coming in. Is Xerxes a possible alternative? I don't know. But this has got to be dealt with. Because at the moment, and for like however many seasons this has been going on, we haven't got the centre forward position solved. And we've spent a shed load of money on Šeško. And he's clearly a good player. So what's going on? Please, Carrick and your coaching staff, get hold of that question and answer it. It needs to be answered. That's a very pretty negative point, but it needs to be addressed. A more positive point, even amongst the dross, Ferdinand still delivers. And boy, does he deliver. Yesterday was not the best game he's played recently, but compared to everybody else on the pitch, he was our best player yesterday. In the second half, I've gone on about this in videos recently. His work rate is superhuman. It really is. If we had 11 Bruno Fernandezes, the plural Fernandez, we would have absolutely no problems when it comes to effort and graft and resolve and commitment. He's everywhere. He is the Energizer Bunny. And by the way, I think football fans are pretty fair actually about this sort of thing. He's absolutely nailed on to be Player of the Year. Not just United's Player of the Year, Player of the Year for the whole Premier League. He's outstanding at the moment. It's really hard to think where we would be without him. I know Casemiro's been pretty influential, but not as influential as Fernandes. Remember Casemiro's goal last night? Laid on a plate by Fernandes. He still delivers. He's still doing it. I do wish we could resolve his position as soon as possible. I think that'd be a tremendous lift for next season. But my main insight from the game yesterday is one that I personally find quite depressing, and I wish it wasn't an insight I had to make. But you know what? We've got to tackle it head on. Right now, Michael Carrick is failing his tests. What do I mean by that? Well, if you remember, quite a few weeks ago now, maybe even a couple of months ago, I outlined to you what I thought were the tests for Michael Carrick that he would have to pass in order to be named as the permanent head coach. Now, at the outset, I'll lay my cards on the table. I want Michael Carrick to be named as the permanent head coach. I want him to succeed. I want him to be the next head coach. Why? Well, there's a whole host of reasons. I actually think he's a good coach. I really do. I think the evidence, until quite recently, is that he's had incredibly positive impact on the squad. The results have been better. We're third in the Premiership. I also genuinely feel that an ex-Manchester United player is what we need, ideally. Somebody who understands the club, because it is a very unusual club. And I think exposure to it is a positive. So I want Carrick to succeed. But, and I've always said this, I don't want Carrick appointed permanent head coach until the end of the season, or as soon as these three tests are met. And the three tests are to qualify for European competition, not necessarily the Champions League. I've always said this. At the beginning of this season, if somebody had said to us as fans, what would you feel about qualifying for Europe, either the Champions League or the Europa League, we would have said yes. So qualifying for Europe is the first test. I believe he's probably already met that. I cannot see how we don't qualify for Europe now. But my second test was we would need to do that playing something like the United way. Now, this might seem a bit nebulous, and I understand some people might think it is, but I think we know what we mean when we say the United way. Bravery, courage, an overwhelming desire to win games through attack, not low blocks and defence, getting 1-0 leads and then hanging on for dear life. It's not the way we play. We play to win, play to entertain. Are United playing that way at the moment? Well, I think they're doing better than Amorim did. But the recent performances have been disappointing. And I thought last night's was the most disappointing and, I have to say, troubling of all. I was genuinely astonished it took so long for Carrick to make substitutions. I was surprised they weren't made at half time. I was astonished we waited as long as we did until we were down to 10 men to do them. And then when we did them, it was substituting a defender and a wide player. I think those substitutions could have been more positive. I thought it was a disappointing reaction by Carrick to the position we found ourselves in last night. I know some of the people have been mentioning this too. When the camera goes on Carrick, I don't see a very vocal coach. I don't see a coach who's bawling out instructions to his players. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily, but I would like to see a little bit more animation from the touchline from Carrick. And I would like to see much more evidence of a plan B and a plan C, maybe sometimes even a plan D. I'd like to see different answers to the different questions that the team is posed by different oppositions and different circumstances in different games. I don't know if we're seeing enough of that at the moment. This is the most negative I've been about Carrick in any of my videos, but I genuinely believe we need to be honest about where we are. I want him to succeed. But I think he needs to start showing that he's more adaptable, more decisive, braver than he's currently showing. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole thing about who could be the alternatives to take the permanent role. I think the pool is tiny because I think those who are most likely to be in the frame have already made it damn clear that they're not interested or they're not in the right position in their career to take it. That's the case for Tuchel. It's the case for Ancelotti. I believe it's the case for Enrique. It's not necessarily the same for Nagelsmann if we're to believe the rumours that he's willing to leave the Germany job, which I understand he signed up to until 2028. But the sounds seem to be that he's willing to dump Germany at the end of the World Cup. I think a lot depends on what happens with Germany in the World Cup, but we'll wait and see. Or can we wait and see? That's the point. I'll be quite clear. I've always been a huge, huge fan of Poch. Well, but Pochettino is not going to be available until after the World Cup. Now, it doesn't mean to say we can't talk to Pochettino. And I'm sure we're talking to a lot of managers, or the representatives of a lot of managers. But so many of them are tied up. But I want to see Carrick succeed. The third test, by the way, as you can see there, is that if Carrick passes those first two tests, I'd want him to keep his coaching team going into next season, because you couldn't absolutely 100% be certain whether it was Carrick alone or Carrick and his team who had done such a good job. But 3 is a moot point unless 1 and 2 are ticked off. As I said, 1 I think is already ticked off, but I'm concerned about 2. Really concerned about 2. And in the games that remain for the rest of the season, I'd really like to see Carrick address the concerns I have about whether he is capable of managing Manchester United in a Manchester United way. In all fairness to him, he can only do, of course, as well as the quality of his squad. And I'll say it again, not strengthening the midfield in January was a disgraceful decision by the club. I don't know if he played a part in that. If he did, though then part of the blame is on his shoulders. But if he didn't, he was dealt a very, very rough hand. We should have strengthened the midfield in January. It's not Carrick's fault that De Ligt has been injured for so long. But I think it's difficult to argue that it isn't Carrick's responsibility, for example, to make sure that Šeško works as a forward. Or if not, that there's something better in place than simply playing Mbeumo up front. Could Xerxes be used? I'm also a little bit concerned about the fact that some of our young players are just not getting any chance at all. I would really like to see, for example, Shea Lacey play some sort of role between now and the end of the season. That is the United way, after all. And we seem to have lost it. So anyway, those are my 5 insights on the game yesterday. Definitely the last set of videos I've produced have taken a slightly downbeat and negative turn, which is a bit ironic for a fan channel, for a United channel called Positively United. Yeah. But you've got to see it, you've got to say it as you see it. And this is how I currently see it. We're still in a really good position. We're third. If we go to Chelsea on Saturday and we get a draw or a win, we're in a great position. We lose, it's getting a little bit more squeaky bum time. But we're still in a really good position. And I don't believe we'd be in anything like this position had Amarin still been our manager. And we'd be playing worse football. But doing better than what was a low bar is not necessarily good enough. And I just think we need a little bit of an increase in quality, an increase in performances over the next couple of games to start reassuring people that if Carrick does get the job, they might not be 100% happy with that decision, but they're willing to go with it. I'll be happy with it, but I want everybody to feel comfortable with this decision. I know that there'll be some characters online who'll never be comfortable with it because their grift depends on them not being comfortable with it. But we're talking about regular, proper United fans. It'd be nice if we could go into next season with everybody feeling comfortable, or the vast majority of people feeling comfortable, that Carrick is a good choice for head coach. I think he needs to do some work between now and the end of the season to make that a reality. Okay. If you like what I do on this channel, please subscribe. Hit the like button on this video. If you think that what I do on this channel, despite the small number of subscribers at the moment, is something that your friends might like to get hold of, let them know about the channel too and try and encourage them to subscribe as well. Follow me on X. Positively United is the handle on X, with United spelled UTD because of the character restrictions on X. Follow me there because I do, much punchier, shorter messages on X, and I had quite a bit to say today about the upheaval on the in the world of YouTube channels that's been going on. I'm not going to say anything about it on this video because I don't think it's makes any sense to do so, but. Yeah, the future's interesting, isn't it? I just have this to say. We've probably gone through a bit of a golden age of startup, entrepreneurial Manchester United YouTube channels. And that's clearly coming to an end, with big players now coming in and buying up valuable assets. Let nobody try and pretend to you that will leave them alone and that they will remain the same. They won't. The corporate world will not put up with what has been going on United fan channels over the last few years. It just doesn't fit the corporate world. So things will change. If that happens, and you still, however, want to see different independent voices succeed and challenge those bigger voices, this is one channel you might want to follow. Small at the moment, but it might get bigger. It's never going to get as big as the biggest. Why? Because I don't peddle nonsense. I never will do, and I'll never create controversy and poison for likes and subscriptions. It's not what I ever want to do. So it'll always be a modest outfit. But why not join the modest outfit? Why not join an alternative point of view about the club? Okay, that's it for the 5 insights. See you next time. I'll do the next video I'll do will probably be the predicted 11 before the game against Chelsea. Until then, always trying to remain positively united.